Hi everyone. Today again we are having a session of reading comprehension. So we'll be going through some passages, their explanations. We will read and I will provide the explanation. After that we have to go through the questions attached. So let us start with the first passage. If you read the first 2 or 3 sentences, you will come to understand what about or regarding what the passage is about. Let us read. In the backdrop means in the context. In the context of a rising trend of decimation of rights for people. Decimation of the rights for people means destroying. Decimate means to destroy or take away the rights of people who do not fit into the binary of male and female. So, bi means two. So, binary means you are dividing into 2 classes, 2 types or 2 genders. Binary of male and female. So, that is the normal 2 sections which we divide people into, males and females, led by the US. So, many rights of people falling into either class, either the female or sometimes the suffragettes may be male. So, decimating their rights. Okay. By the US administration, a recent UK Supreme Court ruling. So, there was a ruling or a directive. Okay, ruling has further polarized the gender debate. So, the topic is about a gender debate. So, here the particular gender debate is about the women, the female, okay, the feminine gender persons. So, there was a debate about their rights, and UK's Supreme Court has recently pronounced a judgment, given a verdict about the rights of female class, their gender. In an 88-page judgment, so eventually the Supreme Court has given a judgment. In an 88-page judgment, 5 judges unanimously ruled. So, what is the ruling, or what was the important point that they brought out? The main point of their judgment, that is the ruling. 5 judges of the Supreme Court unanimously ruled that only biological women, so biological women and not trans women. So, they differentiated the rights of biologically born. That means when you are born, you have the structure or you have a female, organs. So, at birth, if you are having the female organs, then you are considered as a woman and you enjoy the rights of the females, or the feminine gender rights are given to biological women, means when they were born. So, by birth, genetically they had organs of woman, and not a trans woman. So, who are classified as trans women? This is the important directive separating the rights of trans women and that of the biological woman. So, trans woman means change from one to another. So, their gender has been changed during the course of their life. Maybe they were born with male organs, and there some important organs have changed somehow, and then they are given an assignment, gender assignment, reassignment as woman. So, those who are not born as females, but they were reassigned they empowered all the rights of females. So, when they undergo a gender change, that is called a trans woman. So, they change from male gender to female gender. Trans woman meet the definition of a woman under Britain's Equality Act 2010. So, there is an Equality Act 2010. Now, some persons have gone to the court and asked explanations. So, can the rights of originally born women, that is biological women, can their rights be enjoyed by trans women? Is it right? So, they gave an appeal against the original ruling of the court, and the court seriously considered, and now 5 judges from the Supreme Court had eventually given a verdict. They have given a judgment, they have given a ruling that these privileges can be enjoyed only by biological women and not trans women. Meet the definition of a woman under Britain's Equality Act. So, they explained what the Equality Act means. So, originally some rights were included for trans women, but now since certain persons have gone, or a society or a certain biologically born women activist group, they have gone and appealed to the court to verify, to deliberate, to make a proper study and then give a proper ruling. So at the end, 5 judges of the Supreme Court have unanimously given a verdict that such privileges can be enjoyed by only biological women. Okay, only they are considered as females. Women under Britain's Equality Act 2010. So that was given a further clarification by this ruling. In its limited scope of deliberation, deliberation means careful consideration, it provided a statutory interpretation. Interpretation means explanation. Statutory means pertaining to law. So legal explanation. So the Act contains certain rules, and now that rules have been further interpreted or explained that it is the biological woman who can be in the purview of women who have to enjoy certain privileges. Okay. A trans woman who has undergone a gender reassignment. I used this word earlier. Reassignment means they were born, when they were born, they were not having feminine organs, female organs. Now they underwent a gender change, and so they were given a status as females. So that is a gender reassignment. But such persons, such women who have been classified as to have been reassigned this female gender, they cannot enjoy. Who has undergone a gender reassignment and has a gender recognition certificate as a woman. So then they get a, once they have a reassignment, then they get a gender certificate as woman for all purposes. Now what happened? They would lose the right to be treated as a biological woman. Now this particular judgment by 5 judges of the Supreme Court about gender equality right 2010. So when they further explained, when they gave a ruling, they made it clear that these rights were for biologically feminine born, female born women, not who underwent gender change and then they got a reassignment into feminine gender, and then they were given a gender certificate that they are now women. Their privilege is now withdrawn by this ruling. So the court made it very clear that trans women will now not get the privileges in society that were enjoyed, that are enjoyed by biologically born women. Okay, for all purposes. Okay, so for all purposes would lose the right to be treated as a biological woman. So while the appellants means those who have given the appeal to the court in this case, for Women Scotland. So this is the society for Women Scotland, funded in part by a gender critical writer J.K. Rowling, celebrated the verdict. So who celebrated, who were happy because of this verdict, because of this judgment, because of the new ruling given by 5 judges of the Supreme Court? It is for Women Scotland activists. Okay, so they wanted a clarification. So they are the appellants. So they appealed to the court, now clarify as to who can enjoy in society the privileges of a woman. So court clarified that it is only for the biologically born women and not for gender reassigned women, trans women. So they would lose their right. Trans women who were earlier included to have the rights, now they would lose. So their rights are being withdrawn. So who became happy? For Women Scotland celebrated the verdict saying they had been vindicated, means they have been justified. Vindicated means they have been made clear. Okay. They have been justified. Trans supporters and the campaigners felt it was a setback. So there are also on the other side people who support transgenders, felt it was a setback for trans inclusion. So they were included earlier in the Women's Equality, Britain's Equality Act 2010. Now their equal status has been withdrawn by this new ruling by the Supreme Court, 5 judges. Okay. There has been considerable change in the resolve of the original respondents. So in this case, take it as a litigation from law point, from litigation viewpoint, a law or an act had been passed in 2010. Now, the privileges enjoyed by women as per that act, should it be limited to biologically born women or women who men who changed their gender into feminine gender or females? So they underwent a change. They are called a trans woman. Should it be given to them? Now, since for women, that society, Scottish Society for Women Scotland, they are the appellants. They were the ones who gave the appeal, and the respondents are this Scottish respondents, the Scottish ministers. Then, with the resignation of Scottish National Party leader Nicola Sturgeon. Nicola Sturgeon was a person who was very much trying to enact certain laws in favor of trans women. And because of their effort, they were happy to get equality in availing the privileges for trans women as that of the biologically born woman. So, the For Women Scotland supporters, they were very happy after this explanation, clarification by the court. But there was a setback for trans inclusion. There has been considerable change in the resolve. Resolve means determination of the original respondents. The Scottish ministers too, with the resignation of Scottish National Party leader Nicola Sturgeon. She was the activist for trans women campaign, in 2023. She had led the fight to change gender laws. So earlier she had led a fight to change gender laws so that those with the gender recognition certificates, trans women who got new certificates, could be entitled to the same protections as biological women. So with their efforts earlier, they had managed to get these trans women also enjoy. So same protections are biological women. But there was a backlash. Now, there was a setback after the inclusion of this trans woman to have the same privileges as biological women. There was a setback. So what was that context? But there was a backlash against gender recognition reforms. What happened? After which incident, a trans woman who had raped 2 women while she was a man. So a trans woman, a gender reassigned woman who was given same privileges to be enjoyed by the Equality Act 2010 earlier. What was the particularity about that woman? That woman, before changing her gender from male gender into female gender, when she was a man, what did she do, or what had she done after a trans woman who had raped 2 women while she was a man was initially sent to an all-female prison. Now, so that created an uproar in society. So when this woman, who was earlier a man and who was having a sentence for raping 2 women when she was a man, see, that man changed to a woman, that person, that transgender woman was sent to an all-female prison initially. So that caused an uproar. Such a woman who had a track record when she was a man, who had raped in 2 incidents of rape, she had raped 2 women. So this incident of a female who was originally a man and who had the track record or the history of raping 2 women when she was a man, she was sent to an all-female prison. So that was an astonishment to very many people. That is why now there was an appeal against trans women equality with the biological women. Why that Scottish organization gave the appeal. So that is why we had the court ruling. So now let us look in detail into the court ruling and its after effects. The ruling made the point that Gender Recognition Act 2004, there was an earlier Act 2004, gives legal recognition to the rights of transgender people on marriage. See, they had so many facilities or privileges. Rights of transgender people on marriage, pensions, retirement and social security. And that the equality law protects them against discrimination. So there cannot be any discrimination. Kishore Falconer, the chair of the UK's Equality and Human Rights Commission, said The court's clarity. So this commission, Equality and Human Rights Commission said the court's clarity. So now the judgment gave a clarity or proper explanation means, so what is now to be taken into consideration? It means that only biological women could use single sex changing rooms. So female changing rooms cannot be used henceforward by trans women. Only biologically born women. Biological women could use single sex changing rooms and women toilets, or participate in women only sporting events. So women only sporting events, now trans women, those who have given gender reassignment certificate, they cannot participate by this ruling, by the new ruling given by the Supreme Court. Okay. Only women only sporting events and teams, or be placed in women's wards in hospitals. So they cannot get the facility of getting treatment, exclusively wards for women in hospitals. But as the judges counseled against reading the judgment as a triumph for one or more groups in society at the expense of another, the Equality Rights Commission, Human Rights Commission should also ensure that unisex or neutral spaces are earmarked. So some neutral spaces can be earmarked, given for trans people when it issues new guidelines. So when some modification or some new guidelines are coming in, they can earmark some sort of guidelines so that trans women can be also considered. That holds true for all institutions, offices, hospitals and schools. Planning restrictions. So where should there be restrictions? So they can include all this in the new reform. The ruling will have an impact on the sporting arena, where athletics, cycling and aquatics have already banned trans women from participating, means trans women participating under the label of women. So there are restrictions have been issued. Man changing into woman. So not biologically born women, but transgenders, they have a gender reassignment. So they have restrictions in taking part. Athletics, cycling and aquatics have already prevented transgender women from participating in women's events. So they are not given the status of women, trans women. As the experience with India's Transgender Persons Protection of Rights Act 2019 shows, any changes in the legal framework must factor in means consider the trans people's basic right, or else they will face more strictures, more rules. So transgenders are going to face more restrictions in UK because of that ruling. Okay, so new ruling given by the Supreme Court. Let us go through the questions. I hope you have understood the passage quite well. So the first question, what was the main ruling of the Supreme Court regarding the definition of a woman under the, so main ruling, the important point of a woman under the Equality Act 2010. So clarity given by the court. Trans women have not more rights, only biological women are considered women. That is the main aspect. So the consideration has changed. Trans women cannot be included into the category of normal women and cannot be given the facility enjoyed by normal biologically born women. So this was the clear point. Only biological women are considered women. That is what we understand from the court ruling. Okay. Not both biological and trans. Okay. You cannot say the ruling did not clarify or gender identity is irrelevant. Nothing. It is very clear. Only biological women are considered women. Question number 2. Which group celebrated the verdict of the UK Supreme Court ruling? Naturally, they were the ones, that group, they were the ones who gave the appeal. You have to clarify. Gender equality considering trans women is not right. Please clarify the point. So, they were the ones who gave the appeal to the court. So, which group? That group celebrated. Which is that group? It is not trans supporters, not the Scottish ministers for women Scotland. So, it was written there clearly. We have seen clearly in the passage the mention of this particular group for women Scotland. So that was the group. So they celebrated the verdict. They celebrated the judgment or the ruling given by the court. Question number 3. So option number C. Question number 3. How did the ruling affect the rights of trans individuals regarding changing rooms and women's events. So they cannot go into the trans women are now henceforward after this ruling prevented, banned, restricted from going into which rooms? Changing rooms exclusively for women or women's events like cycling and so on. We just read it. Okay, we have just read that passage. So they are prevented or banned or restricted from taking part in certain events which are exclusively meant for women. Now exclusively meant for biologically born women. So it restricted access to women only spaces. So these are women only spaces, even in hospitals, changing rooms. Okay, women's events. So the option is option number 3. Question number 3, option is option number 3. Question number 4. What was one of the reasons behind the backlash against the gender recognition reforms? Now, the activist and the minister, they had previously done a lot of work to include some privileges for trans women, and that was done earlier also. But now the court has withdrawn their rights. Why? Because there was an incident. What was one of the reasons? What was the reason that one woman, when she was a man, she raped 2 women, and then now after this incident she was sent to an all-women jail. So that caused an astonishment, surprise. So a trans woman committing crimes, trans woman committing that rape crime. So that was the incident where they suffered a backlash. Okay, so option number B. Okay, question number 5. Which word is synonym for decimation? Decimation means complete destruction, annihilation, completely bringing down. So decimation means erasing out or completely destroying. Which word is synonym for the word decimation as used in the passage? That is option number B, destruction. Question number 6. What is an antonym? Opposite meaning word. Polarizing means divide. Okay, into 2 ends. Polarized in the context. Polarized means divided. Opposite antonym is united. So polarizing is divided into 2 extremes. Okay. Opposite is united. Option number B. Question number 7. Which word could be used as a synonym for vindicated? Vindicated means justified, pronounced correct, cleared. Okay, so vindicated means justified. That is the meaning of the word vindicated. Question number 8. Antonym for inclusion. That's an easy one. Include, exclude. So inclusion, opposite is antonym is C, exclusion. Option number C. Question number 9. What tone does the author use towards UK Supreme Court ruling? Okay. So he does not, there are 2, 4 women. Scotland, 4 women is there. On the other side, Strugner and so on the other side, they are there. So court should have considered very many things. What will be the aftermath? What will be the consequences for trans women? That is why in the end part you can see about a law passed in India. So they will suffer more and more restriction if the court is going to give such a ruling. That was the tone of the author. That is why the author brought a law change in India also towards the end of the passage. That means he is slightly criticizing the verdict, the judgment or the ruling of the court. Not to such an extreme. Maybe you have to limit in certain places, but in certain places they can be given equality. That might have been the thought of the author. So we can say he cannot be neutral or celebratory or confused. He is critical. Option number. What tone does the author use towards UK Supreme Court ruling? Slightly critical. Okay. Option number B. Question number 10. The overall tone of the passage can be best described. Tone of the passage. Is it argumentative? Is it biased? Nothing of that sort. He brings into light the new ruling, and then under the new ruling he goes back to the earlier laws or acts passed in UK. So he brings all those contexts. So he analyzes one by one. He gives us the details of all this. So the tone is not argumentative or supporting one fact, biased, it is descriptive or analytical, we can say. So we can say it is very much analytical. So for question number 10, we can use option number D, analytical would be very well. Okay. Question number 11, how does the author likely feel about the impact of the judgment on trans rights? So that is why earlier in the last previous question also I told you, see, why the author has brought in the context of India some law change against a trans. It happens elsewhere in the world also. So their rights will be restricted. Okay. So that concern for trans women is brought into light in this passage by the author. So he feels some concerns. So the right word would be concerning. He is neither indifferent nor joyful about the incident. He shows his concern. Question number 11, the right answer is concerning. Question number 12, what may be inferred about the implications of the ruling on the broader societal debate? So society will take this ruling into a debate. Okay. Now, this ruling has brought in a very much of clarity. There is clarity now. Women means biologically born women when privileges or society facilities have to be enjoyed. The court has made it very clear. But at the same time, there are some concerns still lingering, still pending, not addressed. So it brings clarity but reinforces division. So polarization, you remember one word, polarization will be more. So they will be divided into two extremes, trans women versus the biologically born women. That divide will grow after this ruling. So the ruling has brought some clarity, but it reinforces division. Option number B is the right answer. So now after this, I hope you have understood all the questions and answers based on this passage. We will go to the next passage. Hi everyone, here we have a very simple passage. You yourself can read and find out the answers. It's as simple as that. But we can together do a reading. I shall go through the passage and explain, then we can solve. The number of questions are also few only, not the normal numbers. It's fewer than 10. Okay. The postmaster first took up his duties. So it's about a postmaster, about a person. He first took up his duties in the village of Ullapur. Though the village was a small one, there was an indigo factory. So village means you normally don't have any industrial enterprise. But here there is a factory. That factory is an indigo factory. So we have to take care of even small details while we go through this passage that will help us to find the answers to the questions. So indigo factory nearby, and the proprietor, an Englishman. So an Englishman having an indigo factory had managed to get a post office established. So through the effort of this Britishman, there was also a post office in that village. Our postmaster belonged to Calcutta. He comes from a metropolis, Calcutta. Now he works here in a village, postmaster. Our postmaster belonged to Calcutta. Therefore, what happened? The hustle bustle of Calcutta is now missing. That city life is missing. This is a very quiet, serene, tranquil, very calm and cool place. No sounds, no noises, no hustle bustle of the city. So he may find himself out of place. So our postmaster belonged to Calcutta. He felt like a fish out of water. So totally out of place. A fish out of water in this remote village. That is an important city. So far away from Calcutta in this remote village. His office and his living room. So his office and living room. Where were they? Living room were in a dark thatched shed. So in city, everywhere there is light. So maybe his house is also very much lit up. Okay. So but he has a dark inside the thatched house. So there is no sunshine coming in. Dark thatched shed, not far from green slimy pond, surrounded on all sides by a dense growth. So the foliage, the vegetation, the number of trees and plants so are dense around. And amidst these trees and plants, there is a thatched shed which is very dark. Okay. The men employed in the indigo factory had no leisure. So, no sports, nothing like you have an industry near a city. Moreover, they were hardly desirable companions for decent folk. Nor is a Calcutta boy adept. Adept means expert in the art of associating with the others, village people. So he cannot get himself to mixing with these village people, since his origin is from a town, a big city like Calcutta. Among strangers, he appears either proud, sometimes he walks as if he is a different high class man, proud, or sometimes he confronts many of them, he feels in trouble, ill at ease, not very easy to mingle with them. At any rate, the postmaster had but little company, nothing but. He had only what? Little company. Little means no company practically. Means he did not have so many friends, so many acquaintances in this remote village. In Calcutta, in the hustle bustle of the city, he had a lot of companions. So here he didn't get any proper companion. So little company. Nor had he much to do. So he did not find himself busy engaging with friends. There was no time to spend with the others. So he was all to himself. So what happened? So when he sat down in this dark thatched shed, at times he tried his hand at writing. So when you are alone, the best hobby or mind occupation is writing. Writing what? A verse or two. So verse, not prose. Verse means poems. Verse or two. That the movement of the leaves. So what interested him? See, the verses, his poems, the verses of his poems were about the movement of leaves and clouds of the sky, were enough to fill life with joy. So he involved himself into writing some pieces of poetry, some verses, and then his life became joyful. He wrote about everything he saw around him, about nature, leaves, clouds, sky. So all this means about nature. So he wrote some poems or some verses about nature. Such were the sentiments to which he sought to give expression. So he gave expression to his fantastic thoughts. But God knows that the poor fellow would have felt it as the gift of a new life if some genie of the Arabian Nights. You must have heard about Aladdin's magic lamp. So there is a genie. Genie means a spirit. Okay, a spirit coming up. So some expression of poem. So it was like a new gift of life. If some genie of the Arabian Night had in one night swept away the trees, leaves and all and replaced them with a macadamized road. What is a macadamized road? A very nicely hard made. So you have a layers of metal, crumbled metals, and then a road roller runs over it so that you harden up the space. So macadamized roads are hardened good roads, hiding the clouds from the view of the rows of tall houses. So his new engagement is into writing poems, verses, and it is about nature. Because he did not have time to spend with other companions, he did not feel the company of other people, he felt himself much out of place, like a fish out of water. It was mentioned there. Okay, now the questions. The adjective used to describe the postmaster's living room, it is here, in a dark thatched shed. So the word is not bright, light or deep, it is dark. So question number 1, the answer is option number B. Okay, question number 2. What does the phrase ill at ease? So he felt himself ill at ease there in that remote village coming from a metropolis like Calcutta. So ill at ease, it means not forward, disease, comfortable. It is uneasy. Ill at ease means he could not easily mingle with the village folk people. Understand? So it was uneasy. Ill at ease means uneasy. Third question, what does the phrase little company? Little company virtually means no company. So he did not fetch any new companions there. So what does the phrase little company in the passage means? It's not bad friendship, hardly any friends. Okay, that is right. Not small business or hardly any friends. That is little company. At times the postmaster wrote. What did he write? Prose? Essays? No. He wrote poems. The word verses we have seen just now. Verses means poems. Question number 5. The postmaster wrote on what? Wrote on the beauty of nature. It was mentioned there, leaves, skies and so on. So that means he wrote about nature, beauty of nature. Question number 6. The word genie. I told you about the Aladdin's magic lamp. So, genie is a spirit. So, it suddenly comes, then suddenly goes. And it does something according to your command. I speak about Aladdin's, that magic lamp, the spirit there. So, the word genie means it's not a monster. It is a spirit. It's not a ghost. It is not a soul. Ghosts are actually from the souls of dead people. They come again. Understand? So they come back to this world because maybe some of their wishes are not fulfilled. So ghost is actually the soul. It has the figure of that human being. Spirit is not that. So spirit and ghost are different. So here it is a spirit. Understand? Suddenly appearing, suddenly disappearing, not like ghost. Okay, so the correct answer of the meaning of the word synonym of genie is spirit. Question number 7. Which factory was situated near the village of Ulapur? So there was one factory mentioned there, indigo factory. Indigo is used for what? Indigo, chemical, rubber, clothes. It is dye, for making dyes. Like our jeans, it gives a blue color. So coloring purpose, that is called a dye. Okay, so indigo factory means a dye factory. So option number D. Question number 8. What does the idiom fish out of water? Completely out of place. That is, fish lives in water, not on land. So, in unfamiliar surroundings, that is the very correct answer, in unfamiliar surroundings. Question number 9. Find a word in the passage which is the opposite of near. Near means proximate. Now, he comes from Calcutta into a very far off village. Okay, far off means remote. So, near opposite is far or remote. Option number D is the correct answer. Okay, now we switch on to the next passage. It's about a college in Hyderabad, a college instituted in Hyderabad by the Reserve Bank of India. So, let me read the passage. This college has a particularity. It trains bank technology professionals. So nowadays bank needs a lot of technology into banking system. So some persons have to be exclusively to be trained for this purpose. So such a training college of technology for banking. So a technical college for all banking purposes in India. In today's high-tech world of technology, support is very important for the successful function of banking and financial sector. So, exclusively it is for banking and financial sector. Keeping this in view, the Reserve Bank of India (RBI) established the Institute for Development and Research, IDRBT in short form. IDRBT means Institute for Development and Research in Banking Technology. So, a new technology, banking technology professionals are being trained in a particular college. This was through the interest of the Reserve Bank of India, that organization which controls the banking sector in India, for higher education and research in areas of information technology, based in Hyderabad. So this exclusive college in India, it's based in Hyderabad. The Institute for Development and Research in Banking, that is IDRBT, in a span of 10 years. So since their start, it took 10 years to become an institute of international repute. So people in other countries also began to speak about this technology development banking training institute. So it became famous. In a span of merely 10 years, in just one decade, it has become an institute of international repute. Today, it is the apex level research, resource and guidance center for banks and financial institutions in India in technology related areas. What technology? Banking technology. The institute currently offers educational programs leading to an MTech in information technology with specialization in banking technology and information security. So, MTech in IT, then a PhD program, Computer and Information Sciences, and management studies in collaboration with the Central University of Hyderabad. So, banking technology is there. Apart from that, there are a few other courses also. Explaining the potential, the director, original director is VP Gulati, director of IDRBT, says, today, All banks are in for computerization. So there is no bank without computerization, creating their own networks. They have individual networks, disaster management systems. So they are bound. Bound means must. So all banks must require hardcore technology professionals. So that's the point. Why this bank is developed? The purpose of imparting knowledge about banking technology. So in today's world, all banks are bound, means must required hardcore technology. So it's a must for all banks to have a very hardcore technology professions. Also, the government has opened the recruitment procedures, and banks can on their own recruit IT professionals. So banks can sponsor some candidates into this institute, train them and use for IT professionals. I estimate, so the director Gulati says there is an annual need of 750 to 1,200 professionals every year. It grows every year. Okay. After a few years, it will there will be much more requirement. So initially he sees a requirement of 750 to 1,200 hardcore technology professionals maturing, graduating out from this institute. Currently, we are nowhere near the target. The MTech program is a multidisciplinary full-time course. The curriculum is a mix of various aspects of banking technology and information security. Courses such as computer organization. So what are the courses? Computer organization, operating systems, data structures. So look into this. Maybe there may be questions regarding the courses there on computer organization, operating systems, data structures, programming, database and network concepts. Database and network concepts. And software engineering from the core, form the core of computer science content. Courses on banking technology focus on the use of IT in several aspects of banking and finance. Courses on information security deal with the various security concepts. That is, information security deals with various security concepts and principles involved in electronic banking security. Intake for the program is open for both direct and sponsored candidates. So directly some candidates can get entrance for these courses, and also banks on their own can sponsor some candidates. So there are sponsored and direct candidates. Employees of banks and financial institutions are eligible to apply under the sponsored category. IDRBT started the collaborative, means joining with, collaboration means joining with some other institution. IDRBT started the collaborative research fellow. So now they are awarding research program, research fellowship programs, PhD program with the university. So they collaborated with the University of Hyderabad from the academic year 2000 and offers fellowship to candidates joining under this program. The institute selects research fellows every year and awards them various fellowships. A new postgraduate program in banking technology management as curriculum that covers the entire spectrum. Spectrum means that wide range or the full range, entire spectrum of banking technology. So, new postgraduate program covering entire spectrum, complete area, complete periphery areas of banking technology. Being web-based, the program will offer a lot of flexibility in terms of time, distance, cost, piece of learning, etc. Now let us look into the questions. Which of the following is not true? Not true. So there may be some questions false or true. So not true. The first option is it is based in Hyderabad. That is true. Okay, so leave that. It is Apex level. It is the Apex level research and guidance center for banks. Correct, we have read that. That's also true. Okay, see, we have to look for the not true. It has become an institute of international repute in a span of 12 years. While I read, I clearly remember it is 10 years mentioned there. It has 1 decade. I told you, within 1 decade, it became an international institute of reputation, famous, in 10 years. So here it is mentioned a span of 12 years. So the not true statement is option number C. Question number 2. Which of the following does not form the core of computer science course? I told you there were several portions given, several parts. Computer organization is there, data structures is there, operating system is there. Now database and finance concept, is it there? Let us go back to the passage to verify. computer organization, operating system, data structures, programming, database, and it's not finance concepts, network concepts. No finance concept is there. So now let us, so database and finance concept is not mentioned. That is the wrong option. Okay. So which of the following does not form? That is finance concept. What is given is database and network concepts. Okay. So this one is not given. Option number D is the answer to question number 2. 3. Which of the following is incorrect according to the passage? Again, incorrect. Okay. The curriculum for the MTech program is a mix of various aspects of banking technology. Okay, that is there. VP Gulati estimates annual requirement of 750 to 1,200 professionals today. That is also there. IDRBT selects research fellows and awards them fellowship. That is also correct. Then option number D, the banks do not require. What was written there? Is it do not require? So they are bound, the banks are bound to require. Bound means must. It is not a do not require, bound to require hardcore technology professionals. So the correct is the banks require hardcore. It is not a do not require. So option to question number 3 is option number D. So while we go through the passage, we have to also keep in mind about the options, the parts, the data supplied. Question number 4. Which of the following is not true about the new postgraduate program? It is web-based, given there. Flexible, it covers only part. No. What did we read there? It covers the entire spectrum. It covers the entire spectrum. The full covers the entire spectrum. That is the all aspects of banking technology, spectrum, entire spectrum. So the answer here given is their part. So that part is not correct. It covers only part of banking technology is wrong. It covers the entire spectrum. That is what is given. Towards the end of the previous passage, we came across the word flexibility. That is question number 5. Which among the following is the antonym of the word flexibility? Antonym means opposite. Flexibility was mentioned there because a new postgraduate program is very flexible in terms of time, etc., etc. Some details are given. So easiness, flexibility means easiness. You can easily move, easily go. The opposite word is constrained. Constrained means limitation, not resilience or docility or easiness. Constrained. Flexibility means easiness. So whatever is difficult to move, that there is a constriction or a constraint. So the antonym of the word flexibility, you have option number A, constraint. Now coming to question number 6. Select the word that is most opposite to the word collaborative. So oppositive word. Opposite means antonym. Collaborate means join with somebody or some other organization together, participate with, in association with. So collaboration means joining, tying up with, associating with, getting together with. That is the meaning of the word collaborative. So supported or associated or allied. These 3 words are synonyms, supported by someone else, allied with someone or associated with someone. But look at the word exclusive. Exclusive means alone. You say an exclusive showroom means one brand alone, not having any other brand. So exclusive means one by itself. So collaborative is joining with another. So the opposite of the word collaborate, the antonym is exclusive. Option number B, exclusive. Question number 7, which is a synonym of spectrum. Spectrum means, say, sometimes we say the spectrum of a rainbow, all the colors. So the wide range, all the ranges, all the different ranges, all the different bands, that is called a spectrum. Okay. So spectrum means a range. To be more accurate, it will be broad range. So vision, narrow, limited doesn't agree with that. Broad range or range. Which word is synonym for the word spectrum? The correct answer is option number A, range. I hope we have done all the questions of this passage quite well and you have understood how we have come to the answers from going through the passage. Let us go through the next passage. It is about 2 ministers who have done some corruption, and the Supreme Court, it came to the notice of the Supreme Court and the High Court what measures are being taken, what is the situation in Tamil Nadu at present. They both belong to the Stalin government. One was also a former minister in Jayalalitha's government. Okay, let me read the passage. The resignation. 2 ministers resigned because the court gave a sentence. The resignation of Tamil Nadu Electricity Minister V. Senthil Balaji and Electricity Minister Senthil Balaji and Forest Minister K. Ponmudi from the cabinet on Sunday, April 27, 2025. Recently, they had to resign. Court gave a directive. Okay. After adverse remarks, so adverse means against them, remarks of the Supreme Court. Supreme Court held it correctly. These persons who have committed corruptions are not fit to stay as ministers. That was also upheld initially by the Madras High Court. So they had to step down. Okay. They stepped down. Remarks of the Supreme Court and Madras High Court on different issues. There are several issues against them. It's a matter of relief to the advocates of morality. So advocate is not the advocate in the court. Advocates of morality, those who propose, the proponents of morality, those who uphold morality and propriety, do things in the proper way in public life. So there are very many persons, social activists, who wanted them to resign. They are the advocates of morality and property. So it was a relief to them that these 2 corrupt ministers resigned after directives from Supreme Court and the Madras High Court. Led by, so they were ministers led by M.K. Stalin. So the ministry led by M.K. Stalin, Mr. Senthil Balaji's exit came on the eve of the expiry of the deadline fixed by the court. Supreme Court had given an ultimatum. You have to resign within this date. He resigned just on the verge of the final day. The previous day, okay, came on the eve, previous day of the expiry of the deadline fixed by the court last week to choose between his post and his freedom. While Mr. Ponmudi's departure came as the High Court, Supreme High Court direction while directing the registry. See, every court has got a registry. Registry refers to the office where all the registers, all the case files and also. So that is the office part of the court. Okay. So while the registry, directing the registry to take up a suo motu. Suo means self. So sometimes court, when the public are alerted about some wrongdoing, nobody files a case, then suo motu, that is by self, the court can take a case. Suo motu writ petition. So the court will give in writing about what was being committed by that person and why should a case be taken. Okay, writ petition regarding derogatory speech delivered by him. So the second person, Ponmudi, Minister Ponmudi gave a derogatory, means making the government a very bad speech. Okay, derogatory speech delivered by him, observed that he had a prima facie on the first look. Okay, primary look itself, prima facie, misused the liberty granted to him by the court. See, what had the court already done? The court had stayed his conviction. Who is a convict? A convict is a person accused of committing a crime or an offense. So, earlier a case was against him, but the court had stayed, temporarily held it, stayed his conviction as well as the sentence in a corruption case. The court did not give a sentence, did not give a verdict, did not give a judgment. They held it. Okay, yes, they held that one or stayed the procedures of conviction and a sentence in a corruption case. Everyone in public life should uphold the dignity of the office they hold. So, ministership in a state government or in the central government is a high office. So, they have to uphold the dignity of the office they hold. Mr. Ponmudi evidently overlooked the importance of this principle. So, he did not perform himself to the tune of a minister who was an official of the ministry and who is a public face of the government. So, he did not act according to that dignity. Mr. Senthil Balaji is on a sticky wicket. Sticky wicket means in a bad place as the proceedings against him. So, there is a case proceeding against him, both in respect, there are two, both in respect of allegedly receiving kickbacks. Kickbacks means bribe for jobs in the State Transport Corporation. So, one allegation against Mr. Senthil Balaji is that he received bribes for appointing persons into the State Transport Corporation during his earlier tenure as Transport Minister, that is in Jayalalitha cabinet. And money laundering, so that is a very bad crime. Money laundering are in progress after the court's note about 2 years ago. So court had stayed some proceedings against these two ministers, but then they held derogatory speeches, and the court again came, okay, let us bring back the cases. So they had to, according to the directives given by the Supreme Court and the Madras High Court, they had to step down from their official position as ministers. Corruption. So they are held for guilty for corruption. Corruption may not have been viewed by some as an issue that bothers common men. That is because corruption is aplenty, corruption is rife, corruption has become so common. Many persons don't worry about it. I think maybe they consider many ministers are corrupted, or all of many ministers are corrupted. So with a view, common man may not worry about such things. Such a view may have been grounded in the fact that many politicians accused of corruption are successful in electoral politics. But though they are corrupted, people elect them. It means that people don't mind if they have power, if they are great, then people re-elect them, whatever corruptions has been done by them, committed by them. So people don't seem to be affected by corruptions done by ministers. Have been grounded in the fact that many politicians accused of corruption are successful in electoral politics and know how to stay in power, and they know how to wipe out these defamous things. But this perception cannot deter courts. See why the court took a case, suo motu case. Court has to keep the law of the country. If someone has done a crime, then he has to be convicted. He has to be accused and he has to be sentenced about what crime he has done. So, court, whatever be the perception of people, but this perception, this view of the people cannot prevent courts of law from proceeding against those involved in the acts of corruption. So, these two ministers were involved in separate actions of corruption. Rightly, in September 22, the court held that corruption by a public servant is an offence against state and society. So, those who are in high public office, a minister is a person of high office. So, such persons who ought to do things in the appropriate manner, when they do corruption, is an offence against state and society. In September 22, the court held a sentence. Okay, at last. At that time, the court ordered the restoration. So, whatever cases had been stayed, court ordered to bring them back. Restoration. So, bringing back of a criminal complaint quashed by the Madras High Court. So, Madras High Court had earlier rejected this case or held this case in abeyance. Okay, so now those cases have been recalled by the Madras High Court against Mr. Senthil Balaji and others accused of taking bribes, corruption. Okay, bribes in exchange for jobs in the Metropolitan Transport Corporation. Even though there are many anti-corruption activists, it appears none of the activists filed a case. That is why the court had to take a case by itself. That case is called a suo motu writ petition. Okay. Activists, it appears that under the given circumstances, only the courts of law. See, so the court does not need the directive of any person. The court has got a power to take a case by itself. Only the courts of law can effectively act against. So, act against persons in power for corruption. That is exactly what the Supreme Court. Actually, this case was stayed. It was held temporarily, kept in abeyance. But derogatory speech was made by them later on. That made the court recall these cases. So, the court opened the case again. It was quashed earlier, but the court called for the cases again, and the court has got the power to take a case by itself. Suo motu case can effectively act against those in power of corruption. At times, interventions by courts against corruption might appear acts of judicial overreach. So, what's the meaning of this word? Some people may think that court needs to take up cases only which are filed by persons. Why should a court take a case by itself? Is that not an overreach, not called for, unwarranted, unasked? No, it is not an overreach. Overreach is something which you do beyond your power. It is within the power of the court to take a case if there is some corruption or some public wrongdoing. The court has got the power to do that. It is not an overreach. It is not an overreach, not something beyond their power. But the episode concerning Mr. Senthil Balaji and Mr. Ponmudi underscores the point that the top political executive in any state and center should show zero tolerance towards corruption. So, state and central government should accept this. There should be no tolerance towards corruption. Okay, so that is a message. So, let us go through the questions. Question number 1, what prompted the resignation, okay, of those two ministers? V. Senthil Balaji, Electricity Minister, and Forest Minister K. Ponmudi. Adverse remarks, so directives, remarks from the Supreme Court and Madras High Court. Owing to that, they resigned. What was the consequence mentioned for Mr. Senthil Balaji if he did not resign? He belonged to M.K. Stalin's government. The ruling front is called Dravida Munnetra Kazhagam, DMK. So, what will happen? If he did not resign, it will cause a big embarrassment. After court directive, if a minister does not resign, the DMK government may be condemned by everyone. Embarrassment to the DMK government. According to the passage, how does the Supreme Court view corruption by public servants? An offence. See, public servant corruption, it is against the state and society. An offence against state and society, and the court does not need directive from anyone. It can take a case by itself. Okay. What ongoing legal issues is Mr. Senthil Balaji facing? It is clearly mentioned. One, he took bribes from certain persons to appoint them in State Transport Corporation. Second one was money laundering. So, corruption and money laundering. Option number B is the correct choice. Question number 5. What is the synonym of propriety? Means the right way, proper way of doing. So, synonym is decency, proper way, decency, have the decency, propriety, goodness. What is the antonym of embarrassment? Embarrassment means you feel ashamed. When you do something guilty, some offense, you should feel embarrassment. Okay. Opposite is you do a good thing, you feel the sense of pride within you. You will be proud. So, sense of pride is the opposite of embarrassment. What is the synonym of derogatory? Derogatory speech means you are speaking against someone in a very bad manner. You are bringing him down, bringing his name down. You are accusing many things. So, derogatory speech means very bad. Okay. So, opposite word is complimentary. Similar word is disparaging. Okay. Disparaging means you speak ill of others. Understand? You speak very many bad things about a person. Opposite is complimentary. What is the antonym of misuse? Proper use, improper use. So, misuse is abuse. Okay. So, opposite is proper use. Okay. Understand? Misunderstand. Manage, mismanage. Like that. What tone does the author adopt while discussing corruption? Okay. The author is very much critical. Public servants in corruption. So, he highly criticizes. So, the tone of the author is highly critical. How can the court's intervention in corruption cases be described? See, it was mentioned, is it overreaching? Is it beyond their normal power? No, it is necessary. That is the way in which court should act. Whenever there is corruption, it is a necessity that courts take a suo motu case if nobody files a case. What interpretive conclusion? So, interpretation from all these activities, conclusion given by the author can be drawn from the author's view on public life. See, public life, corruption courts ineffective. Upholding dignity is crucial. See, public servant, minister, a person of high office in the government, upholding dignity. There is a word mentioned in the passage. Propriety, decency, dignity, the right way to do. So, they should uphold, they should keep public office. Upholding dignity in public office is crucial, essential, much needed. Okay, last question of this passage. What underlying message does the passage convey about accountability? So, each minister, each person in office, each government officials, they all have something called accountability. If they are in a position, they should be accountable for their mannerisms, behavior, actions, activities, sitting in that position. So accountability is essential. Then only people will believe them. Social trust. So accountability is essential for social trust. So with this we conclude this. Please go through the options, please go through the passage and find out how we compared the options and reached the right options.